Hi guys, this is Jackie Nell of Jackie Nell Photography on Facebook and Jackoraptor on Flickr, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, and now YouTube. So hi, thank you for watching. So today, per my sister's request, I'm going to be editing a photo of Fantasmic in Lightroom 5.4. I've just downloaded the update, so I'm very excited to test it out. So we're going to launch the program here. My last photo, I did like a little in-depth look at my edit was of this photo of Ariel, if you guys remember, and I did it via a huge Tumblr post. So today I'm going to show you how I do my work via a screen video. So yay, exciting things. All right, so we see this tech specs over here. We got ISO 2000. I was at a 200 millimeter with an f of 2.8, and I was working at 250 secs. And I believe my white balance was on auto. For those who are curious, I don't tend to shoot my white balance with Fantasmic on anything but auto just because everything changes so fast. It just doesn't make sense to me to just go to do things like that. Although it does make editing kind of a pain, but that's another tale for another time. Anyway, so the first thing I tend to do when I'm editing is I jump to the sharpening tool because it just helps me see things a little bit clearer. So we're going to up that to all the way over here at 150, and the radius is going to be at 2.0. So then we're going to quickly zoom in on the skin here just because I think it's important to take a look at your masking really quickly. So I'm just going to up my masking just a little bit to give Belle a little bit more of a radiant look and some smoothness to her. But so if you just look quickly, I'm butzing with the luminance lever over here. It's making her a little too fake looking. So just keep that in check, guys. All right, we'll call that good for now because we'll probably go in and sharpen, or soften her skin, excuse me. All right, so up we go. So the first step after we've sharpened the photo is we're going to crop and straighten this photo because it is on an angle, because when I shoot Fantasmic, it is a very active workout. Anyone who has seen me shoot Fantasmic can attest to that. So I'm kind of like on my knees and jumping around trying to get the shot. So I can understand how I have a little bit of an angle here. So we're just going to correct that. That's the wrong way. Whoops. All right, let's go with, I just had it. There we go. All right, take a look at that. So if we look over here in our little navigator on the left-hand side, it looks pretty straight to me, so that looks great. So then we're just going to crop it. I just like to crop things a little bit. All right, so I want really badly for the beast to be in the background here. I think it would be a really kind of cool composition. I'm going to tighten this a little bit. I want to get that rose, and I want to cut a little bit of that leaf because I think it's going to look a little ugly. And then there's this lantern we also got to keep in consideration. So let's go like this. All right, I think that looks pretty good. Maybe. Maybe. This is a tough crop, guys. Fantasmic is a very challenging show to shoot, and it's also really hard to edit. All right, let's take a look at what we got here. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. I think that's straight. I think it's a pretty good composition. I'm not super happy about the leaves on the bottom, but I can learn to deal. All right, so now we're going to go with our white balance here, just because that is going to be a struggle. As you can see, Belle's pretty purple, so I'm going to try and cut those purples immediately. So we're just going to go on over here. Alrighty, she's looking great. That looks great already. I'm really happy with that. Perfect. So now we're just going to go on in here and we're going to mess with the yellows and such, since we want to accentuate the gold in her dress without making it look too fake. All right, how does that look? It's a little purple to me. I just want to, sometimes if I'm having trouble with my white balance, I tend to go with this little dropper here. This will, if you take it to a neutral, so like a black or a white point, it'll help you identify what the computer thinks is the correct white balance. Let's see what it says. Well, let's just do it one more time. All right, that's a little green. I'm going to up the greenness just a teensy bit. I'm going to get a little bit more purple for my own happiness. I'm pretty happy with that. I think it looks great. Let's just focus in on here. Make sure everything looks good. I'm pretty happy with that. That looks great. Great. All right, so now we're going to move on to our exposure and highlights and contrasting and all that really fun lighting stuff. Cool. So let's just, first off, we're going to touch the exposure. This is the overall image lightness, and I generally don't like to go super light with my images because then we get something like that, and that is not cute, and neither is that. So we want something in the medium zone. We're going to go probably no more than 1, but I'm going to go at about 0.7 just because I don't want to overexpose here. I want to keep things, I want to retain the colors, but more on that later. All right, anyway, so next thing I always do after I touch my exposures, I go to my highlights because that's going to preserve the detail, but we don't want to go all the way down there. We don't want to go all the way like that. That looks terrible on both ends. So just to find the medium point, we're going to go at about -25. Maybe a little bit higher. Actually, let's go to -14. I think it looks a little bit better. So just to compare what we've got so far, guys. This is what we had, and this is what we've got right now. Perfect. Great. Moving on. So now we're going to go into the shadows. And we have the beast in the shadows here, which I do kind of like, so I want to try and preserve that as much as I can. But I do want to make sure we can see Belle as clearly as possible. So let's up these shadows a bit. So I'm going to up so we can see her hair a little bit more. I like that. As opposed to that, which I don't want to do because I think that kills the ambiance of this photo, and we want to preserve that black behind her. So let's take it to about 18. I like that. That's great. Next, we're going to touch the whites. This is always tricky for me, at least, because whites can either be really blown out or, you know, perfectly exposed. So when I'm shooting, I tend to be just a teensy bit overexposed, but I'm getting better at it. So anyway, but with editing, with the whites, as you can see, as I move the lever down, we have more detail. As I move the lever up, we lose that detail. So we're going to try and keep those details because we want to see Belle's pretty dress because she has a very special dress in Fantasmic, unlike anything else she wears in the parks. So let's try and keep that. I think that looks pretty good. That's at -17. All right, next we're going to touch the blacks. Blacks are really important in Fantasmic. That is like, you know, it is a night show and we really want to see that. So I'm going to try and preserve these blacks as best I can. So I'm going to make things just a touch darker. See, but not too dark because then everything looks kind of gross. But I want it so that we can definitely see some action going on here. But not like that, because I think that looks terrible. So, -10. I'm into that. All right, and then we're just going to touch the contrast really quickly. Although I generally don't touch my contrast. I generally don't think I need to. But sometimes it can really enhance an image. So just to help things out a little bit, I'm going to put it at maybe like 2. Nothing huge. Anyway, also sometimes when I'm editing, I look at a photo and see if it is better suited for a black and white image. Because sometimes it could be the case, but let's take a look here. So this is the photo in black and white. And you know, it has a potential to be a really interesting black and white photo, but I'm going to save that until I've done all my editing. Because I will always take an image in color over black and white. Unless the photo is just begging for it. But this one doesn't really seem to be begging for it because we've got some really rich yellows and blues and purples and reds that we can really work with here that I would like to play with. All right, so now we're going to go down a bit. Next, we're going to touch the clarity, vibrance, and saturation. And this is all in just the basic editing thing. This is always where I start when I'm editing. I go through a bunch of stuff, but this is always the starting point. This is just the kickoff. All right, so with clarity can like really screw up your image or make it look really pretty. So I tend to stay at about 12. I am pretty confident that most of my images are with a clarity of 12. Nothing more, nothing less. That's how I like to edit my photos. Although I'm thinking this looks a little too much, so I'm just going to duck that down a bit to about 10. No, we need a little bit less. Like it like 6. There we go, that's better. Because otherwise it's just really making it look kind of like a really bad sketch somebody did, and we don't want to do that. This is a real thing that happens in life, and I want to keep it looking like reality with a just touch of whimsy to it. All right, so anyway, next we're going to touch vibrance. I generally keep my vibrance at about 30 or so when I'm editing, but I might take it down just a notch since we do have a lot of color going on already, and I don't want to make things too crazy. I'm going to keep it at 24. I think that looks good with this image because it's still bringing out this purple, which is kind of inevitable with editing Fantasmic photos. People kind of always look purple, but I like to try and avoid it if I can. All right, next we're going to touch saturation. This is saturation of the overall image, so not like just specific colors. So I don't tend to play too much with this little lever here. I will probably keep it at about 2 or 4. That's my general spot. Like, that looks good to me, and I'm not going to push that anymore because there are special levers down here if we scroll to the hue, saturation, and luminance, which will take care of specific colors and lighting. So
I don't like to mess with the overall saturation of the image because I will do it color by color. Anyway, so now we're going to take to the cone curve, and there are a couple ways to do cone curve. You can do it on the actual like line here, but I think that's really kind of hard, so I don't like to do that. I like to do it with the levers because, you know, it does the same thing. You can watch. See, look. See? Watch the line. It moves. And also you can watch the dress detail and light go away in Belle's dress. So I don't like the way that looks at -63 because I think that looks really, really dull and just not good. And we want to make sure Belle's dress looks pretty. So we're going to take that up, actually, because I want to accentuate the light that's hitting her dress. So we're going to take that to about 0.8, or just 8, sorry. Just to 8, because that's going to give us a nice little sheen. If you look right here, we're getting a nice little sheen from the light, which is good. We want that. That's great. All right, next we're going to touch the lights, but there's already a lot of light going on here, so I'm not going to do too much. So let's just go to 12. That's great. Perfect. I love it. All right, next we're going to touch the darks, which, again, I don't want to touch too much because we've got a lot of light going on here. But I want to accentuate Belle and I want to accentuate Beast. So let's go to about 13 because that's going to keep things pretty in perspective. And then we got the shadows, which I want to just keep a little bit up so I can still see Belle's hair, which is important because her hair's so dark right here. If you look, it's getting lost in the black, and we don't want that to be lost in the black. All right, and then also you can notice I have some grain in my photo. That's because I was shooting at ISO 2000, and I did crop this photo from 200 millimeters, but it's okay though, because grain makes character. That's alright. Alright, so anyway, before I touch my color, I just want to show you guys what we've done so far. So if you take a look at this photo, so here we have the original on the left, which is pretty purple, and then we've got our little improvements here. And if you want to take a look side by side, let me just zoom out and touch. It's always the problem with Lightroom. It always zooms in so close, and you're like, I can't see what I'm doing. Alright, anyway, so here we go. Take a look at Belle. Some intense detail. Then we can take a look at Beast over here. So that's just what we've done before even touching the saturation and the luminance of the color. Great. Moving on. All right, let's zoom in a little bit. Great. So it's to fit. All right, perfect. Okay, so here we have the hue, saturation, and luminance. And there's a couple different ways you can set up your little box over here, but I like to see it grouped into hue, saturation, and luminance. You can do it by color, but I find that makes the process really, really long, and editing's already a huge, long process, so I don't want to take more time than I have to. So I pretty much never touch hue, ever. Like, I avoid it if I can. Although, over here, I'm seeing a lot of purple, so there might be something to say for playing with this purple hue over here. So, I'm not sure if it's purple or if it's magenta. Sometimes it surprises me. Let's take a look, though. Is anything happening? Okay, Belle's changing color a bit, if you look really closely. I'm messing with the magenta. She's getting a little bit more purple. Yep, she's getting very purple when I go over to the magenta, and then she gets kind of red over here, which is difficult, because I don't want it to look so bad, and I don't want it to, but I want it to look, you know, like it's something you'd see in the show. So we're going to touch this purple too. I just want to see what that looks like. That's a little blue, and that looks really bad. I don't really like it at all, to be honest. Like I said, I don't really touch hue. I'm just going to keep it the way it is. You know, my thought is a lot of the time... Oh, sorry. My thought a lot of the time when editing photos, like from Fantasmic or from like Making the Magical Map or the Royal Theater or really any stage show, is, you know, you have to preserve some sort of... You have to preserve some of the theatrical lighting, because it's not, you know, just like taking a day portrait outside. You've got other lighting factors you've got to take into, and sometimes they can be kind of cool and artistic, so you got to keep that in mind, because you can't, like, you know, take a brush tool and take out all the purple in her hair. You can take some of it out, but you got to keep some of it, because, you know, it's a spectacular show, so keep that in mind. Alright, so now we're going to touch our specific colors with saturation. And since we've got a lot of stuff going on, I'm probably not going to touch the purple and magenta tools so much. I'm probably going to accentuate the orange in here and the yellow in here and Beast blue over here. That's probably my main concerns. But like I said, I will probably futz with all this stuff. Anyway, so here we go. Let's start with the red. We want to accentuate the red rose. since that is such a important emblem in Beauty and the Beast. So far at around 27, that looks pretty good to me. All right, next we got the orange here. And Belle's dress kind of looks a little orange, so I know you guys are probably like, her dress is yellow. But never fear, my friends. Once I get down to the primaries at the bottom of my editing scheme, we will fix that, because I don't really want her dress to be yellow, orange. I want it to be yellow. But all right, so let's just up this green here, because this is a really nice green. I think it will contrast nicely with her dress. All right, next we got the aqua, which you can see a little bit of on the poles and in her hair over here. And then we got the blue of Beast, which, ooh, that looks nice. All right, so here's the purple. Like I said, I don't want to do too much with it because we don't want that. But we also don't want this. And see, look at all that purple that I just took out. Whew, lots of fun stuff. All right, so I'm just going to take a tiny bit up. Not a lot, just enough. And then magenta, same thing. I don't want this, don't want that. Thank you, Fantasmic, for some interesting lighting. That's what makes this show so hard to edit, is the lighting. But it's what makes it so great when you watch it, so I kind of forgive it. All right, so now we're going to touch the luminance, and I'm going to really, really work on the purple and magenta around her face because I don't want that much of it. But I don't want her to look, you know, like insanely pale because, you know, Belle's not Snow White. And also I don't want her to look like a ghost either, so we got to keep that in mind. So we're just going to cut that a bit. But I do want her properly illuminated, exposed, whatever word you would like to use. I like that right there. I think that's a really nice amount of lighting. I think that looks pretty good, although I'm probably going to have to adjust the temperature of her face a bit. All right, anyway, so moving on. We're going to touch the luminance back there. I want to up the luminance of Beast a bit, so you see me working that. Let's touch the yellow in her dress, and then we're going to finally touch the orange. All right, there we go. So that's that. Perfect. All right. So we're going to skip over sharpening and noise reduction right now because we'll get to that in a moment. I just want to do color. Oh, one thing I forgot to do that I should have done at the very beginning is enable the profile correction for my lens. So I'm shooting with a Tamron 7200 with an aperture of 2.8. I love it. It's great. I actually had a recommendation from it from my friend Mark at MarkWW on Flickr, Instagram, Twitter, and Tumblr, and Facebook. He's on everything. He's really talented as well. Please go check out his stuff. But yeah, he recommended this lens to me, and I had been really wanting a lens with a 2.8 really badly, and he loved his and said I should really consider getting it, and I love it. And Mark was completely right. So listen to Mark. All right, so let's just see what the lens corrects here. And hey, you know, I like that. Let's just see what one more time. Let's take a look at what it looked like before. I think that looks great. I should have done at the very beginning. Always do that because it can really help the image. Although she doesn't have as much headroom, we can fix that later. All right, so then there's effects down here, which is, you know, more vignetting and grain and all that stuff. And I generally don't want to, I don't really want to accentuate more grain because that doesn't look good. Unless I'm doing a very specific thing. If you guys have been following my Facebook page, you'll have seen I've been doing some stuff for this web series that's coming in the fall called Dick Hopper, which some of my friends from USC are in, and I've been adding grain in those photos because they're doing a very film noir thing, so I've been trying to add some character and some, you know, vintage style to that, so that's when grain's appropriate, but not so much here. Alright, so next, we're going to mess with the primaries and the shadow tints. So generally, this blue primer is my favorite thing to play with, fun fact. But so we see a lot of purple here, and I want to cut that just because, you know, I just want it to look a little bit more like Belle and Beast, not like a, I don't know what's going on here. But we're going to go a little bit to the green because, you know, green is the opposite of purple. So let's take a look here, what I can do. All right, I think that looks almost good. Let's see, because mostly happen. If you can see it, it's happening mostly in the back behind Belle. It's actually not affecting her so much. It's mostly affecting Beast. So I'm going to put it all the way down because I think it looks a little bit better that way. Actually, well, like about negative 80 or so. Yeah, that looks better. There we go. Perfect. All right, so now we're going to touch the red primer. And this is how we're going to make Belle's dress initially look more yellow. So if I go that way, it looks a little bit more pink. If I go that way, there is the yellow I want, but we're going to sacrifice that red, which I don't really want to lose. If I can't make it work with the primer, I'll have to go in with a brush tool and physically make her dress more yellow, which I can do, but it's kind of a pain in the butt, so I don't like to do it that much. So let's just quickly... Alright, we'll start with that, and then we'll look at the green primary. Oh, the green primary can make things look really weird sometimes. What do we think? That looks alright, and then we're going to touch the blue primary. This is my favorite one to play with, because you can get some really kind of interesting images. Like, look at that, and ugh. It messes with the coloring a lot, but, you know, I think it can make an image look very, very cohesive. Okay. I'm just about ready to call this part of the editing process done. Alright, so let's just do a quick little comparison here so we can see what we got. Alright, so just a quick zoom. Let's take a look at Beast here. I'm pretty happy that we've cut the purple. Generally, everything's a bit lighter, sharper, exposed correctly. Looks good to me. Alright, Belle is not as purple. That's a great, great thing. I think the lights are hitting her correctly. We got just a touch of purple in her hair. So far, so good. Excellent. All right, now we're gonna go to the brush work. This is the long part. This is what makes my editing, you know, my editing. This is the true art, I suppose. All right, so what we're gonna do? Lightroom stop. All right, so my navigator is over here on the left, guys, just so you can follow along. So right over here. All right, so we're gonna let my computer load a sec. All right, perfect. Great. So first thing I'm going to do before I go in and like color correct and all that good stuff is I'm going to soften Belle's skin. That's the first thing. So we're going to hit that soften skin tool. I hit this one right over here, guys. This is the brush tool. All right, so this is, you know, exists in Photoshop, but I am Photoshop inept, so this is for, you know, dummies like me who don't know what I'm doing. All right, so I always start with soften skin on 100 just because I want to make sure I hit all of the skin. All right, so she's going to look like a porcelain doll, so please just hang on for a second. It's going to look a little weird, but it'll make her look pretty, I promise. You could also adjust the size of the brush, which I will do right now. There you go. I'm going to make that a little smaller, just because I want to get in there with her neck, and I don't want to touch her gloves. And if you don't hit every part, that's fine too, but, you know, we try and do the best we can here. Okay, like that. Great. All right, now we're going to get to her face. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit for her face, just so I can really see what I'm doing. Oh, that's all I want. Come on. Perfect. There we go. All right, so now we're going to get a little bigger just to make this go a little faster. And don't forget to smooth out her lips. Oy, that is skin. That is skin. Keep that in mind. But you don't want to soften the skin to the point where you lose features. Like, if, like, you know, like, a character has like a dimple or something, you don't want to smooth out the dimple. That sucks. Don't do that. That's like what makes a character, and it's usually very endearing. So don't soften the skin to the point of like, you know, no return. Just be level-headed about it. All right, great. So and don't forget the arms. If the arms are showing or the hands are showing, be sure to take care of those too. But Belle only has a little bit because she's got some gloves on, so that makes my life a lot easier. All right, so before you adjust the strength, you got to zoom out. You got to see what the whole image looks like. All right, here we go. That's what that looks like. I'm going to take this down a bit, all right? And keep in mind, when you display this for web, it's going to look a bit bigger, so it would behoove you to zoom in a bit when you do your overall smooth out. Sound good? This is probably about the size you'll see when you look at it on the internet. So I tend to keep my softening my skin at about a little over halfway. I think that looks about, you know, realistic enough, because we want Belle to have a nose, and we want her to have like a chin and all that good stuff. We don't want it to look like a porcelain doll, and we don't want it to look, you know, when nothing's happening. So let's keep it at about, today I'm gonna put it at about 45. I think that looks about good to me. Great. All right, cool. So we're gonna hit the done button. Great. Hit that again. Now we're gonna go in and we're gonna remove just a little bit of the purple, just because I think it'll look a little bit prettier. I'm going to leave Beast in the purple because he's behind and he's, you know, not in the foreground. So anyway, this tint tool, when you have purple, the best way to cut the purple is by using the green, which is going all the way to the left here with -100. All right, so here we go. Let's zoom on in so we can see what we're doing. Don't mind me like singing the Wicked Witch of the West theme. That's fine. Alright, let's see my touch. Also, you can see some blue in Belle's hair. We might, depending on how I'm feeling about this purple cut, we'll see if I take out the blue. Alright, anyways, here we go. Just gonna paint all over Belle and try and get rid of some of this purple. Alright, if you can see it a little bit right there. There's where the greens mid is kind of coming. That's because of my spot brush. And sometimes there's just a lot of purple. You just can't get rid of it all. And that's usually what happens in Fantasmic. You can kind of cut it a little bit, but in the end, at the end of the day, you're not going to get very far because Fantasmic loves its purples. But it's okay because it looks pretty, right? Right. All right. And we might take some purple out on her dress too, on this, at least on this side, just to make it a little bit more yellow. And it looks, you know, very green right now. So, but don't worry because I'm going to take that down. I just make it very green so I can see what I'm doing. All right, let me just zoom out a bit. Just check on the progress of this. All right, good. And we're gonna let my computer load. All right, great. Let's just make it a little bit bigger and we'll just do it on the bottom of her dress here because it's pretty purple. It's just important to make it look pretty even. That's everyone's objective here. Okay. I'm gonna call my brush work done. All right, great. So let's hit I'm sorry, not fill. All right, so this is how we're gonna decide what looks good. So you see it right here, it's at -100. The dress looks pretty green and then her hair looks kind of green. So I don't want it to look green, I want it to look, you know, kind of in the middle of brown. So as you can see, I'm kind of dialing back my green, which is making the purple stand out just a bit, but that's okay. See, that's, okay, that's too purple. And then here's the green. All right, so I'm gonna put it at about, like 50. I think that's about safe. That looks good to me. Great. All right, we're gonna hit done. All right, we got 2 more steps and I think we're pretty much set to post this photo. All right, so next I'm gonna play with the temperature here. So I want to play with the temperature in Belle's hair because I see the blue and I want to see if I can take it out just a touch. We'll see. Let's take a look. All right, so here's her hair. Here we go. All right, so right now my temperature is set at -100, which is going to be blue. We don't want that. We want it to be yellow. So we're going to go to 100. Perfect. All right, here we go. So now the work begins. I really don't know how good this is going to look. Just got to be patient. All right, you can already see her hair is kind of turning purple, which is okay because, you know, we're just starting out the edit, so it's fine. More Wicked Witch of the West, always. Great, great. Almost done. Her hair looks kind of like a unicorn, right? Yeah. It's always really funny whenever I do this to Rapunzel's hair because her hair looks like something out of like My Little Pony. It's kind of ridiculous, actually. All right, I'm gonna do it up here. All right, let's hit fit. And we'll take a look at what we got. And then we're gonna zoom out. All right. So overall, I'm, you know, not too unhappy with that. All right, but let's just dial that back so it looks a little bit more natural. Okay, and I'm liking it at about there, at 30. I think that looks good. All right, so done. All right, let's just take a look really quickly at what we've done so far. So here we go. That's our original photo. This is what we got so far. All right, I think the things that are remaining right now is to fix this color of this dress. If you take a look, I want it a bit more yellow. It's kind of orange right now. All right, but let's zoom on out. All right, computer's thinking. All right, anyway, so we're going to play with the yellow now. I think I've got her skin right. I think her hair is about as brown as I can get it with the purple. You know, I want to keep the fact it is, you know, a night spectacular. So next step is to do the yellow. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this thing called color, which is actually going to, you know, you can actually pick a color. So Belle's dress is really nice because it's gold. So I have this lovely little gold preset here. But I don't want it that saturated, so I'm going to take it at about 48% or so. We'll start with that. So let's zoom on in. All right, so this Fantasmic dress Belle wears is a little bit different than her typical gold dress. So we've got the gold right here, and we've got some white stuff going on. So I'm not going to touch that part, but I'm going to make sure I get these. All right, here we go. Let's take the size down just a bit. All right, here we go. And I will do this as quickly as possible. And a trick to make sure you hit all the stuff you're spot brushing, which I will show you in just one moment, is there's a little button down below right here called Show Selected Mask Overlay. You can click that, and it'll show me where I've painted with my brush tool. So we're going to hit here. It's actually really helpful when you're doing stuff like this. You can, like, think you've done everything, but you actually haven't. So this is very helpful when you're doing brush work. I don't know if you can do this in Photoshop, but it's great in Lightroom, so use it. All right, we're going to scroll up a bit. Get on to the rest of her dress, and don't forget her gloves. Her gloves are also yellow, well, gold rather. So don't forget the gloves. But don't touch the little rhinestone thing in the middle, or whatever that is. We want to keep that. That looks pretty the way it is. All right, good, perfect. All right, so we got this gold up here. I probably won't touch all that much. I'm going to touch right there. And then we got the glove. Perfect. All right, I'm going to go right here. And we got a little bit of the glove poking between this pole right here, so let's just make that really small. Grab that right there. Over here. And that's going to be it. Great. All right, so now let me just hit fit really quickly. All right, so as you can see, we've hit pretty much all of the gold parts of her dress, but it doesn't look too gold to me. Actually, I'm gonna take off the Show Selected Mask Overlay so I can take a look at the gold right now. All right, that doesn't look too gold to me, so I'm gonna up the saturation and just take a look at what happens. Probably gonna look really yellow. All right, as you can see, that's pretty yellow, and I'm not too happy with that, so I'm gonna play with that a little bit, but we don't want to make it go all the way over here to yellow-green. Actually, that's not the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. I stand corrected. Sometimes the coloring might surprise you. All right, but let's just take it down a little bit. All right, guys. I think that's it. I think that looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. That looks really great. Awesome. Okay. All right, so if you take a look at the photo, I'm pretty much ready to post this. Like, let's take a look really quickly. We'll do a before and after. So, let's do a little zoom. Take it out just a teensy bit. All right, there we go. So if we compare this photo right here, we've got Belle on the left, very purple, not looking like herself so much. And then we got her on the right, and she's in her gold dress. Look, just a little teensy bit purple, but nothing too dramatic. Loving it. The rose is properly exposed. Looks great. And we got the beast in the back, which is fantastic because that's how I wanted it. That's how I shot it. It looks great. I'm really happy. All right, so the last step I've got here is I'm just going to take out a bit of the grain because I pride myself on my not so grainy photos. And if we zoom in over here by Belle's head, come on, Lightroom. All right, hold on. Sorry, guys. Lightroom doesn't always work like it should. Generally a great program now. If you take a look, we've got just a bit of grain going on, but that's okay. It's not perfect, but we're just going to take a little bit out because we can. All right, so over here we have noise reduction. There's a couple different ways you can do this. There's luminance, detail, contrast, color detail, and smoothness. So my go-to actually is luminance because, light and stuff. But I've already touched that. You can see I've got 8. So I'm going to use the contrast since we're mostly concerned about the grain and the black here. So let's just up that a bit. And we'll zoom in by Belle's head as soon as the rainbow spinny ball lets me. just take a look really quickly. All right, so you can see just a little bit of grain right there. Oh, later. All right, so there's just a little bit of grain there. So we'll just make that a little bit higher. Great. And then we're going to up the smoothness, the color. And great. All right, let's just take that out for a minute and we'll take a look. We don't want to overdo the grain because otherwise everybody looks like a porcelain doll and then that's just scary looking. All right, that's it. And now we're just going to do a quick side-by-side comparison of a before and after photo so you guys can just take a look quickly and see how that turned out. So we got the before on the left and the current photo on the right. And that about sums it up. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed it and hope you learned something. And yeah, thanks. Bye.